radio for Western Montana. KKVU HD3 Stevensville and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. 102.9 ESPN radio for Western Montana and across the state on SWX television.
I like football!
Now, the 2017 Radio Sports Broadcaster of the Year on the show with back-to-back Montana Broadcaster Association awards for sports coverage and award-winning sports journalism. Here is Ryan Tutel and Colter Nuanez.
Hello, Montana. Montana State nearing the amount of money needed to break ground on a new athletic facility. The United States women's national team advanced to the championship game. And how about Ben Simmons getting a max deal? That's right, a ton of stuff to get through. Good afternoon. How are you? Hope you're well. It is Tutel and Nuanez. We are broadcasting live to you on this Tuesday afternoon, as always, on ESPN Radio across the western part of the state, on SWX Montana, across the entire state on television, and on our YouTube channel, Tutel and Nuanez. You go check us out no matter where you are and no matter when you are. You can watch live. You can watch after the fact there on YouTube. Very nice that way. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. July is Kurtz Polaris' 30th birthday, really, 30 years. And they are celebrating this month by offering up to 30% off. That's right, 30% off MSRP on select parts and accessories with the purchase of any new Polaris off-road vehicle, Husqvarna and Beta dirt bike, or Crest pontoon boat. Some restrictions apply. See Kurtz for details. Get to Kurtz in Missoula and Sealy all month for Kurtz 30-year anniversary sale. Plenty of stuff to get to today, Colter. We're going to talk about the Montana State Bobcats facilities and the athletic facility that they are working on fundraising to get going on, and they are close. Putting out a press release today regarding that, giving some figures. I think it's interesting, and I think it's a fun exercise to sort of project forward as this thing comes to fruition and what that will mean for Montana State, what it will mean for the rivalry, and broadly what it means for athletics and football, specifically in the state of Montana. We will get into what happened this afternoon. The United States beating England 2-1 in the Women's World Cup, advancing to the championship game. We don't know yet who the women will be playing in that game, but we'll let you know as that game transpires. Norway playing in that. Big news in that game, Megan Rapinoe not playing in this game, and as of yet, not sure why. It's been speculated that it was injury, that she did not warm up with the team. It's also been speculated that it was a coach's decision based on England's strengths and alignment and the things they do well. I don't know if I buy that. Well, I'm sure that we will find out at least a little bit more as time goes through, and perhaps even during the course of the show. So we'll find out what's going on there. We'll talk a little bit about some of the camps that are going on around the city of Missoula this summer. You got kids going out there playing games, all that kind of stuff. So we'll get into some of that stuff. And also, in the next hour, Ben Simmons gets a max deal with Philadelphia. We'll go through that. And also some better, worse, or same when it comes to total wins of NBA teams from this past season projecting forward to next season. So there you go. That's what we got going. If you want to call 329-1899, the phone number, all guests join us via the Rangage Brothers RV phone line, and you can listen live no matter where you are through the stream at 1029ESPN.com. It's brought to us by Opportunity Bank. Your local bank, your opportunity. Colter, hi. How are you? You doing good over there?
Doing good. How you doing?
Doing great. Was good of you to supply my son with some weight loss pills today. Appreciate
not weight
that.
Loss pills.
Well, they're crave controlling pills.
They're
which if anybody
protein wafers.
If anybody needs them, it's Kai. Give that anything to just get that kid away from some food. You know what I mean? It just never ends. Terrified.
He will be a world champion sumo wrestler someday.
I mean, I'm gonna have to go in and ask for a raise weekly when he hits adolescence. They're running out of food everywhere. They can't keep it in stock. Anyhow, can you get one of those jobs, right, where food's part of it? Oh, man, what a swindle that would be. Like, okay, yeah, it's minimum wage, but you can eat here or something like that? Oh, that's what we need to find for this guy. Get him going. That's right. He's 2. Let's put him to work. Put him to work. Colter, I wanted to talk with you about this. The Montana State put out a press release today and kind of gave an update, and I think also maybe, trying to solicit a little bit through this, put this out here that they are close but need to finish the fundraising to get to the place where they can break ground. Montana State is looking to raise $18 million. It's the figure that they put on it before they can start breaking ground on a new athletic facility. Be a 40,000 square foot student centered facility on the. It's a 2-story building and accessory to the football field in the end zone or behind the end zone, and that also, I think this is interesting, frees up over 3,000 square feet of office space where the current coaches' offices are, that will also be sort of overhauled and used as a study area and a student facility, an academics facility in that thing. So you're building the new building. That building is going to house, among other things, the coaches, the football coaches in their offices, and then where they are now, all of a sudden, also becomes space to use and to revamp to get that going. They wanted to raise $18 million, the number they put on it, before they would start to break ground on this. According to the MSU Alumni Foundation president and CEO Chris Murray, they are at $16.5 million right now, so just $1.5 million away before construction can begin on this thing. This was sort of outlined in detail in 2017, so we're about 2 years into the sort of the fundraising process of this right now, and I think this is a needed, a necessary progression for Montana State, for athletics, for football, and particularly, with the opening of the Champion Center at the University of Montana. This is sort of a keeping up with the Joneses in a certain respect, but also it's sort of just a keeping up with football. I mean, this is the direction that football, big-time football, is going right now, to have these facilities. And also, if you're going to do it, do it right, do it well. And I think to have new offices that are not in Brick Breeden Fieldhouse, that are, sort of on site and make sense within the landscape. It used to be, well, what do you need an office for? I mean, just put the office wherever and we'll figure it out. But there's good reason to have, accessibility at all times. I know that a lot of times the Brick Breeden Fieldhouse is used for a bunch of things beyond just Montana State athletics, whether it's basketball, whether it's track and field. They got events in there. They got the rodeo in there. They got, a ton of different things happening. And, it becomes a traffic jam. It becomes, hard to get to places. Some places are roped off, that kind of thing. And I think that this is, obviously, on one hand, I don't want to say a luxury, but it's merely just an ease of use thing, but I think it's more than that in respect to the coaches and them being able to do what they want to do, but also, the attractant when it comes to recruiting. And also, I mean, it's a facility that is in generally constant need of improvement, not specifically Montana State's, but at large. If you are a growing program, you're always looking for ways to improve. Sometimes that stuff is incremental year to year. Maybe it goes unnoticed at large, and then sometimes it's substantial and significant, which this is. And this is a major, major project. I mean, talk about 44,000 square feet. That's a huge undertaking, and ultimately, like, what, a $40 million type of facility, something along those lines? Am I getting my numbers right on that?
The grand plan, which also includes an indoor practice facility and an academic center and an expansion to the Bobcat Anderson Tennis Center and golf facilities. It's a whole new addition that will go there. East side of this Bobcat Stadium, that stadium renovation and or replacement of those is also part of this grand plan, with a final price tag of about $38 million.
Yeah, okay.
They have about 20-year timeline on this thing.
And this is sort of phase one of that entire project from a vision standpoint, right?
Right, and they just want to get this part rolling to hopefully spur on more donations and then everything that comes with it.
Well, I found this interesting too. The number of donations, the number of donors that have contributed to $16.5 million, which is a large sum of money that they've already obtained commitments for. 320. And that's not that many people giving money. In fact, if you do the math, which I did, thank you very much, $51,526 per donor. And obviously that could be, a couple, a family, or an individual, whatever. But that's a lot of money averaged out. And obviously, there's probably one or two who've given very substantial amounts, and then another 10 or a dozen who have given significant amounts, and then the rest of them who've contributed as they're able. But they're kind of getting down to the point where it seems like they're trying to cast a little bit wider net too, because if you're at a point where you can really start to close in on that $18 million figure, you get there, and all of a sudden, it matters as a matter of momentum to see a backhoe on campus doing the work, to see, guys in hard hats out there doing it. And a lot of this too, I mean, we're a ways from that because they still need to just finish off. They want to commit another $3 million of this to the finalized, blueprints and plans of the architecture of the whole thing, which is obviously, all the engineering, all the math that goes into physically creating something that is, both functional and, withstands, what is it, the Yellowstone volcano that we're all looking out for? We don't want that thing to erupt and run us all out of here. Maybe it won't be able to stand up against that. I don't know. Perhaps that's a little optimistic to be able to overcome the volcano that blows up the entire state.
I mean, I'm into that. If that's the way it ends for us, let's go.
I mean, yeah, I mean,
there's no worse ways to die than pending death, knowing death, wondering when it's coming. I want the random death.
I mean, all right. really
got
into it right there.
Okay, so I think there's a lot to talk about here. The things that I'm the most interested in when it comes to this fundraising effort by Montana State, I would like to know where the money is coming from. I'd like to know who the big name donors are. I've heard some pretty big name donors in terms of businesses getting involved, and I think that could be interesting and precedent setting in the state of Montana. I think that there's probably going to be some private people that are involved too, just private, 7-figure donors that are throwing down healthy sums of money. I also, this is public information. This is not public. It's not publicly necessary for this to be 100% accurate, if that makes sense. That, as a skeptic, I won't believe that the $18 million is raised until the shovel's in the ground. Saying that $16.5 million and that you're that close is a good PR move because it's a good way to spur on more money. But I don't know. I won't believe that it's fully raised until it's.
Well, it's not fully raised,
right? But I don't know. I guess I'm trying to not step on any toes here, but
not doing a good job of it.
They could have $16.5 million. They could not. And there's just no way to really know that. But it's an impressive effort if they do. But the most interesting part to me is the fact that this is basically a site plan that has 9 different places on that side of campus that are going to get renovated. And I think that Montana State, when you look at just the makeup of their athletic department, they have a lot of really solid elements of it. They have, to me, the fact that the Bobcat Athletic Complex is the first thing that they plan on breaking ground on, football offices, a renovation to Bobcat Stadium, it just further solidifies the notion that they are and want to be a football school. And I don't think that's a surprise. I just also think it's very interesting because we've talked about just the differences between FCS football and Division I basketball and how if you were ever to become a team in the Big Sky Conference that could be competitive on the regional or national level in basketball, if you could ever find a way to win a game in the NCAA tournament, that's actually a lot better for your bottom line financially, your branding as a school. Yet we still see the arms race in Big Sky football going at a higher rate than it ever has before. And like you were saying, is it a luxury? Is it a necessity? Well, when the University of Montana has the Champion Center, Weber State has an indoor practice facility and a accompanying academic center. North Dakota, who's no longer in the league but is still in the region, has a bunch of football-related amenities. And on down the line, everybody in the league isn't reinvesting in football. You have to do it to keep pace or to stay premier. The worst situation you could – I mean, the Cats, make no mistake, have been chasing the Grizz facilities-wise and then in turn success-wise for much of the last 30 years. Now, that has turned a little bit this decade. The Cats have arguably had as much, if not more, success than the Grizz broadly. Since the turn of the decade, Cats have won 3 Big Sky titles. The Grizz have only shared 1, and that one was vacated. The Cats have made the playoffs, count them up, 5 times. The Grizz have made the playoffs, count them up, 4 times. So it's been, about 50-50. But still, Montana State's been chasing the Grizz. The position you could ever be in if you're Montana State, though, is to ever fall behind anybody else in the conference. Because you have the standard bearer as your rival, and they've done a great job of trying to keep pace. And Bobcat Stadium is, second to 1 in the FCS in the game day atmosphere. But you just never get in the situation where Eastern Washington has had this facilities renovation plan forever, and they have not been able to move the needle whatsoever. I mean, they got it rolling before they even won the national championship. Then they won the national championship, and they could never harness that momentum. And they've just been sitting there with a pretty average stadium and pretty average athletic facilities. And you never want to have a plan and then never not be able to execute the plan. So I think the fact that Montana State is making progress and they are close, I think that's impressive, and I think it's interesting, and I think that it's it's a necessity. It's what they need to do.
Well, and the fact that they're publicizing this says to me that they have and are kind of trying to generate more momentum. Like, if things weren't going well, you don't put out a press release like this, And, right, the $16.5 million, look, I think it's an accurate number, but it's an accurate number as a matter of pledges and, whether they're verbal agreements or handshakes or saying, hey, we're going to do this. It's not money in the bank. There's not an account sitting somewhere that has this, this figure in it. It's like, okay, once we hit the number, we will come around. Well, guess what? Sometimes if this started in 2017. 2017, you get a business or an individual to commit to you X amount of dollars. The landscape of their financial situation could change considerably in that time. Maybe they were excited about something that was, going on that isn't going on now. So that stuff can change a little bit, but you're right. This is the fact that this is out there, not this merely as press release, but the entire publicized plan that you put in place, it is a belief that you can get there. You got to get there. Like, you have to find a way, because if you don't, I mean, that's first of all, it's embarrassing, and second of all, it is you can't stay where you are facilities-wise when you're in the same state, and it's a 2-team state, and you're in the same state with the University of Montana and what they have now done and continue to do. So I think that is important for Montana State to be able not just to keep pace from a facility standpoint, but on the field as well, because we know that this is important to a certain subsection of kids who are going on to play Division I football. When it comes to Montana State, this proof that Montana State is a football school, and you said, I mean, it isn't really a surprise. Well, no, it isn't a surprise, and nor should it be. And I understand what you're saying about winning a game in the tournament and what that could mean, the windfall financially and so forth that you just simply can't generate in terms of football. But what level of expectation can you have that is a reasonable thing to just shoot for, to alter your course and make that your sort of North Star athletically, that this is the thing that we're going to dial into if you're Montana State? I think that, and even if you were to do that, right? Say Montana State goes to the NC2A tournament and they win a game. Now, first of all, we know this, that the money that comes in does not go to Montana State. It goes to the Big Sky Conference. Now, presumably, if you're the institution responsible for that win, you I think would have a very good expectation and argument to be made for getting the lion's share of that money that comes in. But again, it's not like checks are simply just all of a sudden written, oh, you won a game, here's $1.7 million. No, it's divvied up, and it's divvied up not only over 13 institution schools that comprise the Big Sky, but it's divvied up over the course of 6 years. So it's not nearly significant financially as it seems like it would be when you just look at it on paper at the NC2A level. Moreover, though, it's about the passion of the people, about the fan base. What do people like? Either Montana State win, go to the tournament, win a game in the tournament. It's going to be a big deal. There's going to be, a welcoming committee when you land on the charter back in Bozeman or back in Missoula. There's going to be a dinner. There's going to be whether it's a parade or whatever it is going to be. It's going to be a big, big deal. But it would never ever touch what would happen if you went and won a national championship, for the football team. Like, I mean, that's just the facts, man. Like, that's just what it is. And so even though there might be more money, in fact, not might be, there certainly is more money, even when I divvied it up the way I did, for basketball success on that high level, I think that when you talk about collecting donations, for instance, why are they donating? Why is $16.5 million already committed? Well, because there's people who care very much, businesses that care very much about the football team and the program and athletics in general. I mean, this isn't just for football, but it certainly is starting with and centered on football.
The other part worth mentioning is that the people can donate to whatever portion of the master plan that they would like, and they've been garnering these donations for this specific portion of it. There's also been 2 anonymous donations to the track and field program specifically that are not a part of this. One was for $1 million and one was for $500,000. That's a significant money from a singular donor to be donated. And for that to not be a part of this, that is actually very impressive that they do have a $1 million donor out there that's not part of this $18 million. I think that speaks to just the track and field program that Dale Kennedy built up over such a long period of time. The other money part worth noting, at the July meetings of the State Board of Regents in Helena, which will take place, I think, right after the holiday here, the week after that, in Helena. The Montana State University will ask for the authority to spend up to $1.5 billion to complete the design of the facility, as well as the authority to spend the previously mentioned $18 million in non-state funds for the construction of the project, including gifts, donations, and in-kind contributions. Up to $3 million will be financed by MSU to be repaid from athletic revenue, no taxpayer money used to fund the project.
Yeah.
So I think that's the last part's worth noting, but also that there is a chance for some subsidies from MSU, $3 million. As we learned with the Champion Center, the Washington family gave over $7 million. The Sprunks gave a healthy amount of money as well for the Academic Center and the Champion Center. But more than $5 million was written into the University of Montana athletic budget for the Champion Center to be paid by private donations. But when we saw some of the financials from UM Athletics this year, first of all, they operated in the red, but that part of that was because of the debt that they are incurring from this Champion Center. And it's good debt because it's debt that's certainly going to be paid. It's just basically pushed back for a moment. But also the bottom line numbers for UM Athletics were different because you have a $5 million swell because this is written in. And so basically what Montana State's saying here is that they're going to have that a $3 million swell in their budget as well. But it seems as if they're pretty darn close already with $16.5 million already secured.
When Montana State gets this done, and let's just fast forward to the point where the facility is open, which is several years away.
Mm-hmm.
What is that going to mean for the rivalry in the state of Montana, and what will it mean in terms of, if anything, accelerating the Cats and the Grizz within the Big Sky?
I think that's so hard to say because I think that the number one factor is going to be the stability at head coach. Is Jeff Choate still the head coach? I don't think anybody knows the answer to that.
In 3 years or whatever it is.
Right.
Sure.
I think that the factors that do point towards likelihood of that being the case are, one, the fact that his son is a redshirt freshman. I think that's the ace in the hole for Montana State. If, in fact, you are a Montana State supporter who wants to keep Jeff Choate, I think the ace in the hole is that Jory Choate plays for the Cats. As, I don't think either one of us can really see Jeff Choate letting someone else coach his son through his senior year of college now that he's already a part of the program. But then the second thing that I think that keeps Jeff Choate at Montana State is this facility. Because the number one point of contention he's had with Montana State, and he's mostly doing it tongue-in-cheek, joking and stuff, but not really. He pounds on the table a lot for this kind of stuff, and I think it's great. I think it's really good for the program and for bolstering momentum when it comes to fundraising. I mean, last time we had a press conference over there, he said, hey, have you ever seen the guys with the construction hat holding the thermometer to show you how close they are? He said, just take a picture of me and put it out front to show people how close they are. But he's always grumbling about Broadway and Bozeman or the Jason Aldean concert or whatever, because the way that Brick Breeden Fieldhouse is set up and where the football offices are specifically located, at the very least, Choate and his coaches are going to have an incredibly noisy and distracting work environment. But at the worst, they're straight out. They have to go somewhere else. They got to figure out other places to meet and stuff like that. And so if it ever happens, like during spring ball, there was a Broadway on Bozeman play where the coaches weren't exited from their office, but there was no other rooms available at Brick Breeden Fieldhouse because everybody's using them for costume changes and catering and whatever. Well, now you have nowhere to meet, and you have 110 players on your team, and you're trying to have a meeting before spring ball to go over some plays or draw it up on the board or whatever. You got nowhere to go. That's not very advantageous to you as a football program. So this will help just those small logistics, but also it's a necessity for Montana State to keep pace with Montana. I'm just so interested to see what the actual Bobcat Athletic Complex facility looks like, because it will have a new weight room, it will have a new refueling station, it will have training and rehab and recovery rooms and all that stuff that's a necessity. I'm just interested to see if it's on par with the Champion Center at Montana, if it's superior to or inferior to. I'm not sure. It looks pretty nice. I'm looking at the master facility plan right now, but it's not a standalone facility, which I think makes it distinctly different. And the Champion Center is pretty nice. I mean, we've been in there. It's quite a facility. So I think that answering that question is going to be hard until we see the actual facility. But I think that Montana right now has so much momentum because of the Champion Center. So this was definitely a necessary addition that Montana State just had to get done.
I imagine at the point when Washington Grizzly Stadium was built as such. When was that, Colter? 1986. 86, okay. And at the point that Bobcat Stadium was built as such, where it became not just a field where you play football with some bleachers in it, but it became a football stadium.
So they closed in the south end zone in 2010.
Closed, and it certainly had been built up well before that as well. But the point is that at the FCS level, look, man, there's a lot of football teams that are playing on fields with bleachers that are glorified or really actually equal to many high school facilities. In fact, Portland State is playing at a high school most of their home games at this point in Hillsboro. So compared to the competition nationally especially, but even within the Big Sky, at the point that those were built, the separation that happens between what it is to be at Montana State and what it is to be most other places in the country at the FCS level is night and day. I mean, it's almost a level unto itself. Now, several schools and stadiums have started to come up with Weber State. Their stadium is not nearly what either Montana or Montana State is, but their facility is really nice. And like you said, with an indoor, full indoor facility and things like that. Obviously, take an NDSU, and North Dakota's is so weird. I understand, but the fact that it's domed, and you get a lot of run out of that. These, though, the training facilities, the locker rooms, all of the accoutrements that you would use as a player, the meeting rooms and the coaches, this is, to me, the next major progression. And it is a major point of separation because while most of the rest of the country at the FCS level is still working on getting the stadium part of football done, Montana already has, and Montana State is about to get the rest of the stuff into the, very much top-level Power 5 Division I college football stratosphere of quality. And I think that comes with incumbent pressure, and I don't think it's, when you're getting 26,000 or 22,000 people at a football game and the rest of the country is averaging 6, you should have pressure on you. The program has a responsibility to be dominant, and that falls first and foremost on the head coach. And yet, what it also affords you in terms of who you're able to get, who you're able to go against, a.k.a. the Mountain West, in some cases maybe even the Pac, or, if you're in Bozeman, maybe the Big 12, Could Montana State compete with Iowa State for a player that was located, somewhere in Nebraska, somewhere in Wyoming? I think they could, when this thing gets done. And so, and I think that's interesting. I think to continue to blur the lines, we talk about the rich getting richer and the separation of money and power in sports. And when I say power, I'm just talking about who you're able to obtain because of all of the television money, and the Power 5 schools just wild percentages of increasing separation because of, the ACC network is about to launch. Obviously, we know the Pac-12, the SEC network have already been, going for a while, Big Ten and so forth. What that gets you over and against, if you are Toledo, if you are, USF has been doing South Florida, whatever, but Cincinnati, any of these MAC, AAC, Sun Belt types of schools, you can't really overcome it. But what Montana State have been able to do is actually close that gap between them and whatever the next level is above them to really make a question. Hey, would you rather play football at Buffalo or at Montana? Now, obviously, if you're from New York or whatever, but you understand what I'm saying. It's a wide open question as far as I'm concerned of where a guy would want to play. Would you rather be at Montana State, or would you rather be, at Troy? And look, Troy's. I'm pulling these out of thin air. I know that these schools have done. Troy beat LSU 2 years ago, I think it was. So I get that, but I think that there's. I know you're not going head-to-head in recruiting with these schools, but you understand what I'm saying. If you're just going to compare two programs in a vacuum, I think there are a lot of reasons why kids would rather play at two Montana schools than at many, many, many FBS, to say nothing of the FCS schools, from sea to shining sea. Yeah,
the point is historically true. They just got to start winning again, man. At the end of the day, the Montana schools have not won on the level they are supposed to win at, period. There's not been a big playoff win in the state in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
The only playoff wins have been against Pioneer League teams and Incarnate Word. And there's been times where one, if not both of the teams have not been in the playoffs. That's unprecedented.
It's unprecedented.
Let's just cut it. Let's cut it exactly how it is. It's the Grizz, man. The Grizz have to be in the Grizz. FCS football, Big Sky Conference football, and football in the state of Montana is just better when the Grizz are elite, and they're not right now. And that is just cut and dry facts.
They haven't been.
And they haven't been. And so to finish your point, I think that's broadly true, but if the teams don't have national brands, then how many people go to your games is secondary if you're not winning at a national level. If you can go to a kid's house and say, hey, we won the Big Sky 12 years in a row, and that wasn't 10 years ago, now you got some clout.
Okay, but
it's the NDSU recruiting model, right? Come here and never lose. That's what Montana used to be able to sell. Now they can't even sell playoffs. They can. They should. That's what it's going to take to bring it back around. But this success, it gets further in the rear view the further we go. Montana does not have an official Big Sky Conference championship since my brother was playing. That's 2009. That's a decade.
Yep.
That's crazy. Think of all the teams that have shared the Big Sky title since then.
But here, you are 100% right about that, but I still would include Montana State in that too. And Montana State's been better than Montana the last 5 to 7 years. And like you said, when Rob Ash was at his height, and think what you want about Rob Ash. Rob Ash, am I not mistaken? He's the winningest coach in the history of Montana State football.
70 wins.
And 3 straight double-digit win seasons, and they're Big Sky Conference champions. They go to the playoffs. They win playoff games. And who do they beat? I don't know. And was it –
They won 2 playoff games. They beat New Hampshire and Stony Brook. That was the biggest knock on Rob Ash, is that he couldn't get done in the playoffs.
Right. And clearly –
I couldn't get it done against Chris.
And clearly the way that it went at the end, it wasn't sustainable what he was up to, it appears. But then the thing sort of tanks over there because you have a bad year, you fire the coach, new AD, the whole thing, and now, Jeff Choate comes in, wants to play an entirely different brand of football, which for my money is the right style, that's the right philosophy to have in the state of Montana in terms of how you want to try and play the game. And we have seen improvement each and every year. And they come into this season with the highest expectations that they've had there in a long time, a top 15 preseason ranking, depending on which poll you look at, a top 10 ranking, and this on the horizon, this facility on the horizon. And the question is, can Jeff Choate and that staff continue to raise the bar to a point where when this thing opens up, if they're a top 10 team in the nation, and then they open the doors on this thing, they're
already selling it too. Like
right.
This whole last class of guys.
Oh, for sure.
What do you like about the program? They said we love all the stuff that's gonna happen.
But here's the thing.
The funniest part, though, is Bobby Houck sold this Champion Center to all my buddies. I know. I mean, Ryan Bagley, his dad played for the Bobcats. Ryan Bagley chose the Grizz because he thought this was happening. Ryan Bagley graduated in 2007. It was good 10 years before Champion Center, but that's here nor there. It's funny.
There's a difference between being excited about what's going to happen and being able to walk into a building and go, whoa.
No doubt.
Look at this. There's my locker. How about
that?
No doubt. So, okay. Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. On the other side, the United States women's national team, without Megan Rapinoe, a 2-1 win over England. They are in the World Cup final. We'll discuss that right after this. Hey, Canyon River, they're open all weekend. 4th of July week, great deal going on. You can play all weekend starting Thursday from the 4th through the 7th. Are you ready for this? 18 holes, $40. That includes a cart. $40 includes a cart. $25 for 9 holes includes a cart. You go to CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. You click on the tab to secure a tee time. You make your tee time. You go play for a hugely discounted rate through the 4th of July weekend. Happy 4th of July to you from Canyon River. Also, all the carts, brand new fleet of carts out there with the Shark experience. Every hole has dynamic interaction with the player, giving you yardages to the hole, green, pin, bunkers, water hazards, whatever it might be. Maybe you're playing a different fairway, something I've done a time or two. You know how far it is to get back into your own, where you are. You can set up shots. All that is great. You got satellite radio. You listen to all the music you want. I'm listening to all the NFL teams talk about every single team has a little podcast you can play on the thing, which is pretty slick. And you can Bluetooth your phone in. Shark experience, great. Go to Canyon River. It's a beautiful course, a beautiful setting. The rates are right. CanyonRiverGolfClub.com and Canyon River over in East Missoula, Missoula's best golf experience. Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes, too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River.
Alpine Touch has been providing you with the distinct seasonings you know and love for decades. Now, Alpine Touch has something to help you unleash the freshness of all the delicious flavors you need to spice up any meal. Check out Alpine Touch's new coarse grinds, unleashing the fresh taste of the garlic pepper or all-purpose seasonings to please any nose or taste bud. Coarse grinds can be purchased by the pound at retail locations around the state or at alpinetouch.com. Use the code ESPN10 at checkout to get 10% off any online order. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Down, pump it up. Pump it up.
There's There's lots of fun to be had this summer. Get your wings at Town Pump with Red Bull Energy 12-ounce, 3 for only $7. Be refreshed and delighted anytime with any size fountain drink for just $1. Town Pump is right down the road. What are you waiting for?
Town Pump. Right down the road. Pump it up. Oh, yeah.
Jayco and Rangich Brothers are teaming up once again. We take pride in being Western Montana's #1 Jayco dealer and strive to continually offer you the best quality, pricing, and reliability. To celebrate the arrival of summer, we are offering July Hot Buys. From RVs to parts and service, we've got you covered. Save big on Jayco J-Flight SLX 264 Bunkhouse Travel Trailer. Sleep 7 starting at only $14,995 with payments as low as $149 per month OAC. Don't miss our July Hot Buys going on now. Only where a handshake means something. Rangich Brothers RV Center.
Hey folks, Ryan Tutel here, and I'm with Josh from the Advocates Injury Attorneys. Josh, if our listeners have been injured in an accident, how can you help?
We're here to help you after a car accident by negotiating with insurance companies, recovering lost wages if you have any, and even getting you into a rental car if you need one. Call us today for a free consultation, and we'll get started helping you right away.
If you need help, get a hold of the Advocates. Call Josh at 640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. You deserve an advocate.
Still emerging from your winter hibernation and need to get your bearings straight? Cruise on down to Port of Missoula for all your spring and summer needs. Come check out their men's and women's streetwear, sunglasses, and shoes from brands like Vans, Adidas, Thrasher, Volcom, and the original Port of Missoula brand. They also have all your skating needs covered, from tune-ups to fresh-made custom boards. Port of Missoula, Missoula's original board shop since 1989, on the Hip Strip, 618 South Higgins.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Sports Center. Montana State is closing in on its initial fundraising goal, according to MSU Alumni Foundation President and CEO Chris Murray. Murray said in an MSU press release that the foundation has secured $16.5 million so far, and that's $1.5 million away from the $18 million required to break ground on the planned Bobcat Athletic Complex and Academic Center. The 40,000 square foot student-centered facility is the first part of the $38 million athletics facility master plan, which was released in 2017.
At the July meeting of the State Board of Regents, in Helena, the university will ask for the authority to spend $1.5 million to complete the design of the facility. Up to $3 million will be financed by MSU to be repaid with athletic revenues. No taxpayer money will be used to fund the project.
The pendulum in the in-state recruiting game has continued to swing Monday, a week after Montana landed 3 of the Treasure State's top football prospects. Montana State got a verbal commitment from Butte Central standout lineman Aaron Richards. The 6'4.5", 280-pounder earned all-state honors on the offensive and defensive lines. Richards is the second verbal commitment for the class of 2020 to Montana State, joining Colstrip defensive lineman Trey Yates.
Finally, Glendive's senior Carson Murphy is verbally committed to the Lady Grizz basketball team. She was an all-state selection in basketball and the Class A state champion in both high jump and triple jump.
The United States beats England 2-1. They await the winner of Sweden v. Netherlands, which will be tomorrow. Same time, 1 o'clock. If you're looking for that, Fox Television. It is Tutel and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. July is Kurtz Polaris' 30th birthday month. That's right, 30 years. And they are celebrating by offering up to 30% off, that's right, 30% off MSRP on select parts and accessories with the purchase of any new Polaris off-road vehicle, Husqvarna or Beta dirt bike, or any Crest pontoon boat all month long. Some restrictions apply. See Kurtz for details. Get to Kurtz Polaris in Missoula and Sealy all month for Kurt's 30-year anniversary sale. Coulter, the United States went ahead and beat England today 2-1. All 3 goals scored in like the first 33 minutes of play. The United States went up early in this game, and then England scored a goal to tie it up in in the 20th minute, and then the United States ended up finishing it off with a second goal within the 31st minute to get what ended up being the 2-1 lead and the game winner. It went 97 minutes, 7 minutes of extra time, but an obviously huge win for the United States. Notably, without the services of Megan Rapinoe, who has been fabulous for this team, scored 2 goals against France in their huge quarterfinal win against the host country. Now get themselves into the final, and they will play, again, the winner of the Netherlands versus Sweden. But a good game today. We watched most of this game, you and I did, throughout it, and a huge win without your star player, who we're still trying to figure out where was she? Why was she not on the field? It's a big, narrative about this game now today.
Just since this show has been on, Twitter has told us, and this is from reputable reporters, that Megan Rapinoe suffered a slight hamstring pull that kept her out of this game. There's also some speculation that maybe it was a strategic thing just because England plays, and I'm no soccer guru in terms of the X's and O's and the formations and stuff, but what I read from a couple soccer insiders, they said that England plays a pretty specific and unique formation. They're also considered the fastest team in the world. And so the United States national team's coach decided to go with a much more a speedy front line. And that was another reason. So I guess it's probably a combination of the injury and maybe a matchup. It seemed as if the move from those who really know the ins and outs of soccer thought it was a good move. It's worth noting, Megan Rapinoe is 35. So, while she is certainly the captain of the team and has been dynamite in this tournament, I think she leads the entire tournament in goals with 5. I think she was the first woman since Marta to score 2 goals in back-to-back games, and that was the first time since 2007 that has happened. So she's been dynamite. She's been lights out. But it seems as if the move was praised from a strategic standpoint more than anything. So that's an interesting factor, but I think that I'm gonna double down on what we talked about earlier. A couple weeks ago.
Okay.
This U.S. national team, this United States women's national team, caught a ton of heat after their 13-0 win over Thailand when they were celebrating every goal.
Yes, they did. From me, notably.
They have continued to just put the gas pedal down. I think they've scored in the first 10 minutes of every single match in this World Cup.
Scored in the 10th minute of this game. Christian Press scoring in the 10th minute.
And they just get ahead of you, and then they just demoralize you with, one, their physicality, but also just how much swagger they play with. And I really think that the celebration and the smack talking is a part of it. They get in your head. To me, watching this game, England looked completely out of sorts. They looked like they had distraught looks on their face for the entire second half. What are we going to do? How are we going to do this? Their coach, like you said, if only he was intense. He's burning holes through his players. He's staring at them so hard, trying to get them to go up and down the field. But they were panicked. Whereas the United States team, they're just they have so much confidence. And I think that I find them an incredibly compelling team. I was excited to watch this game today. I'm very drawn to this team. I think that they have really, really marketable players. I think that they have a really, really fun style. And I love the way that they play. I think that the fact that they do what they do and they do talk so much smack, I think it's great.
Okay.
Alex Morgan drinking the tea after the go-ahead goal. It's too good.
None of that am I against.
Well, you can only be like that if you're always like that.
No.
Yes.
See,
this is coming from a non-competitive person.
This is where you're so wrong.
Nah, see, these girls would tell you that you always have to be like this if you want to be like this all the time.
No, you're the one who's telling me that you have to be the same way all the time or else you can't be that way any of the time. But in fact, all of us are different all the time.
Right, but that's when you're in a competitive mindset on a world stage, I think that you have to harness it consistently.
Coulter, there is not a situation ever in the history of the world where if you're up 80 points in any particular thing other than cricket where that is a close game, that you don't understand what the situation is and that you can't adjust what it is that you're up to, and then all of a sudden won't be able to harness it again the next day because you didn't do a sliding leg kick up 9-1.
But it's sports, so who cares? What I'm saying is I don't care if they're the most brash, unsportsmanlike, smack-talking team in the world. That's what I love.
And that's fine.
I just think it's so great.
But I do care. And not so much – look, if you're the most brash, I mean, unsportsmanlike. Here's the thing: you don't think it's unsportsmanlike. That's the crux of the matter. You think you're just out. Look, you want to talk smack? I'm into it. You want to celebrate goals? Absolutely, and you should. But also, when you are playing Thailand, not host France, not England, it's a whole different deal when you're up a dozen, when you're up 10, and you're still running around like you've just scored a game winner. It's a bad look. I'm not even saying it's unsportsmanlike. I think it's amateurish. Like, give yourself the respect that, yeah, we're up this big. It's okay. We're going to move on and just keep rolling. So that's my whole point on the thing. That said, I was looking forward to this game today when I woke up. I was happy to watch this game. I am with you. As I said, against France, I think the women's game in general, and this team in particular, has a lot more action to it than do the men's games a lot of time. Part of that is because they seem to always, they have always scored. I think every single game in the first 15 minutes of play, every single game in this World Cup. It's incredible that they have been able to continue to do that. And this is a game where people thought a lot of goals would be scored. It looked like it was going to be that way. And then, what do you know, Alex Morgan, 31st minute, that's it, that's all. There was a goal by Miley Bright in the 86th minute that was overruled, said that she was offside, from video review, which is going to be a point of consternation, certainly for England. And this is the first World Cup that they have introduced, I believe, video review. They started it a year or two ago, but this first World Cup where it's been, a thing. And that obviously significant because it was a very close play as to whether she was offside or not. But the way that they play and the talking and the celebrating in a game like this, give it to me all day long. It's contextual.
So you don't think Alex Morgan's teacup was unsportsmanlike?
Love it. Love the teacup. Give it to me.
But that's what I'm saying. It's the same thing.
No, it's not.
Isn't it unsportsmanlike to have a pity party during the middle of a world stage competition?
What? I'm not following you.
Well, so you just want them to just roll over and die and not score goals and not celebrate goals?
I mean, the only options here are just you have to be the worst team ever and throw the game so the other team can feel good about
I'm just saying,
or you have to be the meanest people on earth. Those are my only choices.
No. I'm saying that these women are going to celebrate every single goal they ever score on the national stage, period.
Clearly, they will.
Okay.
Because they scored it when
what's
they were up
wrong with that?
13-1. It's amateurish. That's what's wrong with it. It's not self-respecting.
We also have to talk about the save. I mean, the save was what won this game. There's a yellow card in the goal box.
Alyssa Nair, the goalie. In fact, the save on the penalty kick and the save on the attempt, the shot attempt not long before that, which was spectacular. Diving save, which was sometimes it's hard to tell, was that ball actually going to go in? This was headed for the back of the net for England, and she came up absolutely huge. You're right. I mean, Alex Morgan gets the header in the 31st minute that scores it, and she's the name and the face of this team along with Megan Rapinoe. And so she's going to get, all the talk. But this was Nair's game in terms of who's the MVP of this, who kept the United States in this thing. She did.
I want to circle back to your point about this being more entertaining than the men. And I completely and utterly agree, actually. I think that there's several factors. I think that some of our best athletes, in terms of on the national stage, some of the best American athletes are playing soccer on the women's team. I don't think that Clint Dempsey, but that's about it in terms of the national team for the men. I mean, the biggest problem I have with soccer on the men's side of things is that nowhere close to our best athletes are doing soccer, not even in the top 5 sports that they're playing. And I always wonder, what kind of soccer team could America have if guys like Tyreek Hill played soccer, or guys like Rajon Rondo or Russell Westbrook? Like how good of a midfielder is Russell Westbrook if he plays basketball or soccer from the time he's 5 instead of point guard? I mean, goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Or how good of goalies could guys like LeBron James be? I mean, come on. There's no way you're scoring. But that's here nor there. I do think, though, there's a certain elevated element of national pride when you talk about the women's national team because they are among the best in the world. And it's not just this, man, I hope we get to the knockout stage.
We have Sean Rainey on the line.
They're not just the there's not just a ton of confidence. I mean, they're the overwhelming favorite to win the whole kit and caboodle, and they are coming.
Well, maybe.
It, right?
I mean, Sweden wiped out in the Olympics, wiped out America in the Olympics. But I also just think that there's a certain element of just swagger and branding. That's why I love the celebrations, because I really do think that these girls have made their own identity as a team, and I think it's so good for women's sports broadly. That's why I love the brashness that they play with. Megan Rapinoe's the greatest example. She has a take no prisoners attitude. The story on the Players Tribune by Sue Bird today, which I can't say the headline on the radio without getting in trouble, but Sue Bird and Megan Rapinoe are dating, and Sue Bird wrote a fantastic editorial about Megan Rapinoe, and it's a lot about the political conflicts that she has had to face during this World Cup, but also just about how steadfast she is, Rapinoe, in just the way what she believes in. And I think that is what characterizes this whole group of women, and that's why I love it.
Well, that is fine. We have a call, which we're going to get to, but we got to get to it on the other side. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Television Sports Broadcaster of the Year. On with us next.
Les Schwab is proud to introduce two of our best tires ever, just in time for summer. There's our exclusive Reputation, a high-mileage premium passenger tire we believe has the quietest, most comfortable ride ever. Or our exceptionally quiet and smooth all-season traction tire, the Open Range AT. Get up to $150 instant rebate on 4 backcountry MT or AT tires, or $50 on 4 road control passenger tires. Les Schwab Tires. Doing the right thing matters. Cannot be combined with other offers. Limited time. Terms and conditions apply. Details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River. Hey folks, Ryan Tutel here, and I'm with Josh of the Advocates Injury Attorneys. Josh, what are people left dealing with after an accident?
Well, quite a few things, actually. We see people that are in pain, they still need to get to work, they need to raise their kids, and now they have to take time to go see doctors and other healthcare providers. They're frustrated with working with the insurance companies and getting the runaround. We'll take on the burden of dealing with the insurance companies so you can get the best settlement possible and get back to your life.
Find your advocate online at MontanaAdvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers. You deserve an advocate. Hi, boys and girls. Ryan Tutel
and Colter Nuanez
from Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio, from your very favorite Tutel Nuanez podcast, and now officially Gracious Mercy on television statewide.
That's right. We've been doing a radio show and a podcast since August of 2017, and now it's time for us to expand our reach into statewide television on SWX.
We're on SWX every weekday from 4 to 6 live on your televisions. It's available on channel 199 on Spectrum Cable or on 23.3 on your antenna television. And you can download the Watch SWX app and get us that way on your phones and devices as well.
And of course, we'll still be right here, 102.9 ESPN Radio from Missoula and the Bitterroot Valley. And as always, you can find the podcast, the live stream, and everything else you need, 1029ESPN.com.
Colter, do you think that we're spreading ourselves too thin? Are we going to saturate these people and they're just going to start hating us, the inevitable backlash of the great heights to which we have now attained?
No chance. Tutel Nuanez, Montana's only statewide sports talk show.
Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
Sean Rainey does. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris, 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. They're celebrating their 30th birthday. That's right, 30 years this month. by offering 30%. That's right, 30% off MSRP on selected parts and accessories with the purchase of any new Polaris off-road vehicle. That's like Husqvarna and Beta dirt bikes as well, or any Crest pontoon boat. Some restrictions apply. See Kurtz for details. Get to Kurtz Polaris in Missoula and Sealy all month for Kurt's 30-year anniversary sale. We got to go to the phones. We got somebody who's got to talk to us. His name is Sean Rainey. He's a friend of ours, and he knows something about sports. He is, after all, the television sports broadcaster of the year. Hello, Sean. How are you?
What's up, fellas?
Well, you tell us. You called during a soccer segment, during the United States Women's National Team segment. Is that where your head's at, or are we talking about San Diego Padre baseball today?
No, we can talk some soccer. I just walked into Oakland Park. Going to be on your guys' airwaves a little bit. How about that? A little radio.
A little Osprey. How good are the Idaho Falls Chuckers? My goodness gracious, like 13-1 on the season. This is like, I've never seen something like this baseball team right now.
It's hard to do. Yeah, it's hard to do that in baseball. I don't care how talented you are, but yeah, 13-1. But no, I wanted to get back to. I got to agree with you. I think Coulter's wrong here on the whole 13 goal thing.
As usual, Sean.
I say no, but usually I don't agree with you. But I'm going to agree with you on this one. But I just think, I don't know, if it was me and you expect to, win the whole thing, and you're playing like the worst team in the tournament. I don't know, after the 7th, 8th, 9th, I would keep scoring goals. Don't get me wrong, I'd try to put up 50. But I wouldn't, freak out about it because that's what you're supposed to be doing. I wouldn't waste my time celebrating. If I'm playing you in one-on-one basketball, I'm not going to waste my time celebrating after the 10th bucket in a row, because it's expected.
That's right. How many football games have we seen where one team's up 40, they score a touchdown, they flip the ball, they jog back? Because it would be stupid. It would be ludicrous to spike the football when you're up 48-7 and start dancing around and doing the mamba or whatever it is in the end. Be crazy.
See, this is interesting. So Keenan Curran, wide receiver for the Grizz,
yes.
When I put it out on Twitter that I didn't really like the excessive celebration, he, kind of said that, that they should be celebrating no matter what the score is. And so I went back to their game against Mississippi Valley State because I was just kind of curious, when they were scoring their, 100-point or whatever against them, what the celebration was. And it was pretty much they scored the touchdown, they handed the ball to the refs, they kind of hugged the offensive lineman and walked off the field. It wasn't like the same celebration. But, and so it was kind of going against almost what he was saying. So, I don't know.
What do you think? 2-1.
I think that both of you guys always talk smack all the time, no matter what you're doing, no matter who you're playing, no matter what you're doing. So you guys are just being hypocrites right now because you guys would both be talking smack in any competition you ever competed in, no matter if you're supposed to win or not.
That's true, too. It's because we want to humiliate.
But you're able to do that subtly, though,
there you go.
Yeah, without the, loud celebration.
Hey, let the girls dance. Girl power. Keep rocking. I can't wait. I hope they win the championship match 13-0 again, and I hope they do cartwheels after the 13th goal all the way down the field. Give me the World Cup.
You know what? In the championship game, maybe a little different. Let the celebration start early.
Yeah, I'm all for that, the championship game.
Rain Man, appreciate it. You're going to be on ESPN Radio and SWX Montana television coming up here in just about a little less than 2 hours from now on the call. So we'll look forward to that. Missoula Osprey and the Idaho Falls Chuckers, game 2 of 3 tonight at Oakland Park and Allegiance Field.
Yes, sir. See you guys. Have a good 4th of July.
You too. Sean Rainey, boys and girls. Good to be with Sean. Good of him to call in. When he calls in unsolicited, you know what I mean? That's something to say. It's great. Can I call into the news?
No.
You think we could do that?
Nope. You just walk right on stage, though.
There we go. Yeah,
they're live, so what are they going to do?
How we doing?
If you just showed up with your suit on, just boom. I'm here to do a take.
Well, I'll show up is in a green shirt, and then my body just goes away, invisible. Well, great first hour in the books. On a Tuesday. You know what this is, Coulter? You know what this is right here? The midpoint of our work week, my friend. We're halfway home. 1 hour left today, one show tomorrow, and then the 4th of July. On the other side, we got to get into a couple of things. First of all, what are your kids going to do this summer? We're going to tell you. We're going to give you a bunch of options in terms of things that they could do all around Western Montana this summer. And also, Ben Simmons getting a max contract with Philadelphia. Is that the right thing to do? How deserving is he of a max deal? Is he not? And also, better or worse or the same? NBA edition next.
Don't mess around with Mother Nature. Your home is your biggest investment. For protection that lasts, don't trust your home to anything less than Sicken Prolux stains from Garden City Paint and Glass. Sicken Prolux stains are tough enough to take on Montana's 4 seasons, providing excellent moisture resistance for outdoor railings, decks, and outdoor furniture. Sicken Prolux exterior and interior stains. Available only at Garden City Paint and Glass in Missoula, across from the Southside McDonald's at 3217 Brook Street.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River.
At the Montana Club, our goal is to create a menu of mouth-watering food with variety to satisfy any craving. From the garden fresh ingredients in our salads to our succulent, perfectly grilled Montana Club Angus steaks, we take pride in every detail that goes into preparing your food. Top off your meal with a premium cocktail, wine, or microbrew. Come as you are and satisfy your craving with our home-style breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Hey folks, Ryan Tutel here with Josh from The Advocates. If you've been in a car accident and need help dealing with the insurance company, you should give The Advocates a call.
It doesn't cost anything at all to call, and I'd be happy to talk with you about your situation. You don't want to have to be dealing with contacting the insurance companies and setting up your claim. We can do that for you from start to finish. We'll take the hassle out of the process so you can just focus on getting better.
There you go, folks. If you've been injured in an accident, give Josh a call, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers, but you deserve an advocate.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula.
Everybody knows that high school sports generate suspense, excitement, and drama.
They also generate higher grade point averages, stronger work habits, and greater self-esteem.
Everybody knows that high school sports give us more value for our entertainment dollar.
They also give us leaders committed to strengthening communities right here in Montana. The true value of playing sports in school can't be measured in wins and losses or dollars and cents. Studies show that participation in sports, along with other extracurricular activities, is one of the best ways to teach leadership, cooperation, accountability, and other invaluable life skills. Don't just stand on the sidelines. Encourage the young people you know to get in the game. When you do, you'll be helping them get ahead in life. High school sports, a winning part of a complete education. This message presented by the Montana High School Association and the Montana Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Sports Center. Montana State is closing in on its initial fundraising goal, according to MSU Alumni Foundation President and CEO Chris Murray. Murray said in an MSU press release that the foundation has secured $16.5 million so far and is $1.5 million away from their $18 million required to break ground on the planned Bobcat Athletic Complex and Academic Excellence Center. The 40,000 square foot student-centered facility is the first part of the $38 million athletics facility master plan released in 2017.
At the July meeting of the State Board of Regents in Helena, the Montana State University will ask for authority to spend up to $1.5 million to complete the design of the facility. Up to $3 million will be financed by MSU to be repaid from athletic revenues. No taxpayer money will be used to fund the project.
The pendulum in the in-state recruiting game continued to swing Monday. A week after Montana landed 3 of the Treasure State's top football prospects, MSU landed a verbal commitment from Butte Central standout lineman Aaron Richards. The 6'4.5", 280-pounder earned all-state honors on the offensive and defensive lines. Richard is the second verbal commit for the class of 2020 to Montana State, joining Colstrip defensive lineman Trey Yates.
And finally, Glendive senior Carson Murphy has verbally committed to the Lady Grizz basketball team. She was an all-state selection in basketball and the state champion in both triple jump and high jump.
Say congratulations. Work so hard, forgot how to vacation. They ain't never had the dedication. People hating, say we changing, look, we made it. Yeah, we made it. That was never friendly. Yeah, now I'm jumping out of the
Hello, my friends.
Yeah, and I know it's
How are you? Hope you're doing great. It's Tuesday, tomorrow's Wednesday, and the day after that is the 4th of July. Happy belated Canada Day to our friends north of the border. That was yesterday. Do you know that, Coulter?
I did.
July 1.
I did. I know a lot of Canadians. I like Canadians.
Yeah.
Way better than Brits.
It's amazing. Yes. Liking and disliking people based on their country of origin. Excellent. We are broadcasting.
It's just like states of origin. Just like saying I like Montanans and not Californians.
That's right.
Has a distinct impact on who you are.
Yeah, it does.
You ever met any unpleasant Canadians? Yeah, me neither.
Couple.
Maybe
you know
I need
what?
to go
I
up
met
there.
some very pleasant English folks.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, well.
I'm Irish. Oisin Shafferty told me I'm allowed to not like the Brits.
That's the deal. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
We digress.
We're broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris is having their 30th anniversary. That's right. This July is Kurtz Polaris' 30th birthday. They've been there for quite a while, and they are celebrating this month by offering 30%. That's right, 30% off MSRP on select parts and accessories with the purchase of any new Polaris off-road vehicle, Husqvarna or Beta dirt bike, or any Crest pontoon boat. It is pontoon boat season after all. Some restrictions apply. See Kurtz for details. Get into the Kurtz Polaris in Missoula and Sealy all month for their 30th anniversary sale. Coulter, we wanted to talk a little bit about Benjamin Simmons today, who came away with a max offer. It is a 5-year, $180 million deal from the Philadelphia 76ers. I don't think this is, 5 years, 170. Don't let me give him the extra 10 mil just yet. 5 years, 170. And it is a contract extension that has not yet been signed. They're working through the details, but are expected to get there. It is rare that a guy has such a glaring weakness that is getting a max deal as Ben Simmons, who is a guard, does at shooting the basketball. That said, I think Ben Simmons is certainly worth a max deal, and I think Philadelphia is right to offer him that. But I'm wondering, first of all, do you feel that way at all yourself? And second of all, if you do, how close to the line of not a max player is Ben Simmons to you?
Well, I think Ben Simmons is a max player because of his age and his unique skill set. I don't think Ben Simmons is in the right situation for him. I think it's fascinating that the Sixers decided to run it back with who they decided to run it back with. Now, starting next year, Joel Embiid's going to have 5 years, $150 million left on his contract. Tobias Harris signed a 5-year, $180 million deal, which when you just read it like that is crazy in itself that you're paying $30 million more for Tobias Harris than Joel Embiid. That's just crazy.
Yes, it is.
And then you talk about Al Horford, 4 years, $109 million, and now Ben Simmons, 5 years, $170 million. I mean, goodness gracious, that's a lot of hundreds of millions of dollars for 4 guys. But I also just think it's interesting that they decided that these were the 4 guys and that Jimmy Butler was the one that was out. I don't think it's that surprising that Jimmy Butler himself was the one that was out. I just think it's interesting that they decided that they're going to run it back with Embiid and Simmons.
Let me ask you something. Do you know who the general manager of the 76ers is?
I do. Elton Brand.
Isn't that interesting? Now, Elton Brand is a guy who played many years and was a good ball player, really good ball player. Also, very well known as a very intelligent guy. And you would think for a guy as bright as he is, as thoughtful as he is around in the NBA, that he would make a good administrator and a good general manager. But he is young. He is young. I mean,
40?
For a general manager.
Just turned 40?
Just turned 40. And so for as long as he's been in the NBA, to go essentially, I mean, off the court into a general manager spot is very similar to me about guys who walk off the court, put on the suit, and go and become a head coach. No assistant coach. You're not going to do any of that. You're just going to accept the playing experience as cultivation of what it takes to be a coach. And that always surprises me. And by the way, I'm not critical of anything that he's done here. I don't think he had any choice. I mean, Jimmy Butler did what he did. Mm-hmm. So that wasn't on him. Offering Ben Simmons a max deal, I think you're right. You talk about the age and the unique skill set of what he does bring to the table, some things that he can do that no one else in the NBA can do. He's definitely a max deal. The Tobias Harris thing, look, man, I guess I'll just plead ignorance on Tobias Harris. 5'180" just seems so extraordinarily high for Tobias Harris. But people who seem to love Tobias Harris. Whether he fits and works in Philadelphia is an open question. I think they've had those issues of fit this entire time. And Al Horford, getting Al Horford, I think is a good get because I think Al Horford is a great player. But again, would Al Horford be better suited somewhere else? Well, the answer to me seems to be yes. That doesn't mean if you're Philadelphia, you don't go try and get him. You got what you got, and if you can add Al Horford to the mix, I do think you're better for that. But you're going to have to be – it's going to be a weird-looking basketball game that the 76ers are going to have to play next season when you got no J.J. Redick and you roll out there with two bigs, Tobias Harris, Ben Simmons, and some fifth guy. I just don't know what that's going to look like, and I think that they got a lot of work to do to try and sift through what that is going to be.
The other thing worth noting is this is just a proposed rookie extension, which has not actually been signed.
The Ben Simmons one.
Ben Simmons.
Yeah, they're working. Yes.
Yeah, so mid-October to sign it.
The details.
So this is going to be a decision that has to be made because this is the maximum extension.
It's an offer.
It's the maximum extension you can give for a guy who's staying home to play for the team that drafted him. But he could find similar money, not quite as much, on the open market his first time becoming a free agent, which would be next summer.
Because he's not eligible for a Supermax.
The other thing that's worth noting, he's not yet until he makes an All-NBA team.
Yep.
The other thing worth noting, though, is the Ben Simmons is a clutch sports guy. Rich Paul is Ben Simmons' agent. So where does that factor into any of this? I have said it on the show before. I don't think that Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid are that good of a fit. I think they're okay. I don't think they're great. I think you need to surround Ben Simmons with shooters. I think you need to let Ben Simmons be the guy who's running the show. And if Ben Simmons has to just dump the ball down to Joel Embiid in the post, I just think that makes then when Simmons does that, as soon as he dumps the ball to Embiid in the post, he's irrelevant. He is irrelevant because he cannot do anything as a catch-and-shoot player. And so I just find that fit to be a little bit concerning. But it seems that, Adrian Wojnarowski, who knows all, sees all, he is projecting that Simmons will sign this extension before that mid-October deadline. And I think that that's going to be a real interesting situation because I think that what this does for the Sixers is it makes them the same. I don't think it makes them any better.
Yeah,
and I don't think that. I think that this locks in that they are going to be one of the 5 or 6 best teams in the NBA for the next 5 years, and it also locks in that they are not going to be one of the 3 best teams in the NBA for the next 5 years. That's all to say. Simmons could take a huge jump, and if he does, look out.
It all rests on Ben Simmons.
It does,
yes.
Because Embiid has taken the jump.
Yes, he has.
Embiid was spectacular despite having an ailing back and not being in great shape this year. He was lights out. He's 28 and 13 every night. He's the third leading scorer in the NBA.
Yeah.
And Tobias Harris, I think, will actually I think he'll see improved flow without Jimmy Butler because he was kind of just like the fourth man out. I think that's why you had to just kind of plead ignorance because he was largely irrelevant during his brief stint so far in Philadelphia.
Yeah, it was really good for the Clippers, but he's kind of come out of nowhere when you talk about $180 million guy, Tobias Harris. You would not have ever put him in that sort of category 2 years ago even. It is Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. You want to do some of this list here?
What do you think? Should we? Let's go. Let's do a little bit, and then we'll take a break, and we'll do a little bit more.
Okay, sounds good.
Let's start with the 76ers. The 76ers were a 51-win team a year ago. They made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, but they lost. No, they made it to the Eastern Conference semifinals. lost to the Raptors on the Kawhi Leonard buzzer beater.
Yep.
It was the exact same position they were in the year before. So they've won a playoff series each of the last 2 years. They have not made the conference finals each of the last 2 years. They've been a 50-win team each of the last 2 years. Are they better, worse, or the same?
I think they're the same.
I think they're about the same.
Yeah. I would like to say that they're better, but if you look across, a lot of this has to do with how are they. If I look at them as a team, I say they're the same. We talked about the potential with Ben Simmons and what he could be if he really takes a step forward, but also it matters who else is there in the East, and I think that they're kind of in that spot where who knows, Boston could be really good, or they could be not as good as the 76ers, and that's sort of up to Boston as much as it is up to Philadelphia. So, yeah, I think 51 sounds about right, and Eastern Conference semis, maybe Eastern Conference finals, depending the way the chips fall.
Rather than doing better or worse than these win totals from a year ago, I want to put it in perspective like this. Because, first of all, I think we got to say that in the East, we're both in agreement that it's impossible to predict what the Raptors are, because the Raptors are a 55-60 win team if Kawhi Leonard resigns, and the Raptors are probably not going to make the playoffs if he doesn't. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, Danny Green's out there. Marcus Gasol.
Maybe they get an 8 seed.
I don't know, man. I don't think that the Raptors are better than. Maybe they get the 8 seed. I think they're better than the Pistons. Sure. I don't think they're better than the Magic or the Nets.
Yeah.
Without Kawhi.
Not better than the Nets.
Well, now, yeah, right, with Kyrie. But so let's do this. So with Kemba Walker added to the mix with the Celtics, who's better, the 76ers or the Celtics? Who has better championship prospects?
I mean, yes, you add Kemba Walker, but you lose Kyrie Irving and Al Horford. So I think their prospects are very similar.
See, I think that the Celtics get better. I think it's addition by subtraction, because I think the Celtics just had too many guys. When you have a bunch of guys who are all kind of tweeners, like now with Al Horford in the mix, the Celtics couldn't play Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown at the same time at the prevalence they wanted to. Same with Gordon Hayward. Now you can play a unique style because you can play either Tatum or Brown as the stretch four in that lineup, or you can play all three of them because Gordon Hayward is a not only willing but exceptionally good passer.
No, so I mean that's all true, perhaps offensively, but they're not better for the loss of Al Horford, especially defensively.
No, they're not, but they're better lineup wise. They're better rotation wise. Mm-hmm. The situation that the Celtics are in is that they had a logjam. You can't let. I said this yesterday. D'Angelo Russell's not one of the 10 best players in the league. He is one of the 10 best assets in the league. I think the only team in the league that has 2 of the 10 best assets in the league, though, are the Celtics. They have Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. I think those guys are top 10 assets because of how young they are and how much upside they have. You have to figure out a way to cultivate those guys, and to do that, you have to have a shorter rotation. You have to have guys out of the rotation. I think that they'll just be better without the players, just because I think that each guy can have an elevated and better role.
I mean, okay, but Steph Curry, what is he going to play his absolute best? When Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant are hurt, and he goes out and scores 47 points, and you know what? They lost.
Well, right, but the Celtics were better straight up without Kyrie Irving. I mean, they had better record without him in the lineup, and they made it farther in the playoffs. And then, 2-season sample size. When Kyrie Irving was not playing, they were better record, and they were better in the playoffs.
And replacing Kyrie Irving with Kemba Walker, I think, is a significant upgrade for Boston.
Just for them.
For Boston.
Right.
Not losing Al Horford.
Okay. I agree. I mean, I think the Celtics would you agree that the Celtics have better championship prospects than the 76ers?
No. I would say they're very equitable.
Okay. Indiana adding Malcolm Brogdon is intriguing because I think Brogdon fits nicely there, and I think they didn't re-sign Thaddeus Young, which I think hurts them a little bit. But if Oladipo can come back full force, I'm not sure. But the Pacers actually had some sneaky nice pieces. Bogdanovich is good. Thaddeus Young is good. They lose both those guys.
Lost. Yeah.
They lose both those guys. That's tough. But Malcolm Brogdon with Oladipo, I'm not sure. Indiana's not in the same tier as those other two teams.
They're not.
Right?
Okay,
so how about 76ers, Celtics, or the Bucks?
The Bucks. Chris, do we know
Middleton re-signed.
Okay.
And so did Brook Lopez. They went all in on those two guys, which is what they needed to do.
It's the Bucks. I mean,
they might lose Bledsoe because of it, but I think that's okay.
The Bucks are the team to beat in the East, And to me, it doesn't even matter if Kawhi Leonard goes to Toronto. The Bucks are the team.
You mean LA? Or if he stays in Toronto?
Yeah, if he stays in Toronto. Yes, it goes to. It stays. Yes. The Bucks are the class of the East as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, so right now, if you had to seed it for me. Assuming Kawhi leaves Toronto.
If he leaves?
Yep. He's not going back there.
Okay. Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Boston, Brooklyn, 2 through 4 in some order.
Okay. So you think the Nets will be better than the Pacers out the gate?
I think the Nets are going to be better than the Pacers.
Okay.
I think the loss of those guys for Indiana's, even with Oladipo coming back, and I do like Indiana, but I just don't like him as much. I think that Indiana and Orlando are 5-6, regardless. And you know who else I think is going to be there is the Miami Heat.
That was going to be my next one I want to ask you about.
Hassan Whiteside, but they gained Jimmy Butler, and I think that works out well for them. And I think the Miami Heat are, they were on a Dwayne Wade farewell tour, but Dwayne Wade was not. They're better without Dwayne Wade at this point in his career in terms of him playing a lot of minutes, and he brought a lot to that team. Obviously, the organization, but even this season, in a lot of ways, the veteran leadership and all that. And I don't know if you can replace that, but just on the floor, I think getting Jimmy Butler is good, and I think they're going to be good.
They're going to be deep, too, because they've made some of the sort of second-tier signings that I think actually help you a lot. I mean, they traded for Tyler Hero. They still have Kelly Olynyk coming off the bench, who's pretty solid. They got Myers Leonard.
But who cares about any of this, Coulter, before we take a quick break? Here's the question on everybody's mind. Who's going to get 16th? The Wizards, the Knicks, or the Cavs?
I mean, I think it's got to be the Wizards, right?
I don't know.
Just
they were actually the 11th. No, they finished.
I just
11th.
mean the way that their luck is going right now. I mean, they just are the most downtrodden franchise.
17 wins for the Knicks, 19 wins for the Cavs, 32 big wins for the Wizards. Even though they're heading in the exact. I mean, they lose Kelly Oubre. What's an ombre is a hairstyle. I gotta get
is that
Otto
Porter contract finally off the books? Or are they still paying Otto Porter $30 million a year?
Doesn't even matter. They're all bad.
If you're out there listening to this show and you want to have a good belly laugh, go Google the top 25 highest paid players in the league. About 15 of them are exactly who you expect, and 10 of them you're like, huh? Otto Porter, Paul Millsap, huh?
What a deal. We'll come back.
Let's do the Western Conference on the other side.
We'll do the West on the other side. We'll also tell your kids where to go this summer. Coming up after this.
We ate a lot of steaks before we came up with the Montana Club's Private Reserve Cut Angus. It's as good a steak as you're going to get. Our Private Reserve Cut Angus is specially cut for us. And with our custom seasoning, it has a flavor that's absolutely incomparable. We're confident that it will satisfy the most discriminating steak customer for an unrivaled steak experience. Real Montana, real food. The Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Hey folks, it's 4th of July week and Selway Armory is celebrating with special deals and sales all week long. Selway Armory at 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6 off North Reserve has the biggest selection, best expertise, and yes, also the lowest prices on firearms and accessories anywhere. So get in this week to Selway Armory. Selway Armory will be closed on Thursday, July 4th to celebrate America's birthday, but will be open every other day with great low prices and amazing deals. Celebrate America's birthday at Selway Armory.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
When you need a bank to help ramp up your savings strategy, look to your local bank, Opportunity Bank of Montana. Build confidence in your financial future when you create a rainy day cushion or take care of the nest egg you already have. Opportunity Bank offers options from basic savings to money market accounts and certificates with competitive rates. There's nothing like the feeling of progress, so let's get started today. Come see us at Opportunity Bank of Montana. OpportunityBank.com. Member FDIC.
Here at Florence Coffee, our Huckleberry Lemonade is a favorite to our lineup of refreshing summer drinks. For a fun twist on my favorite drink, you can get it made with our house-brewed iced black tea or soda water for a fizzy treat that's sure to beat the summer heat.
So stop by any Flowco locations throughout Western Montana and visit FlorenceCoffeeCo.com.
The best flavor under the big sky, Florence Coffee Company.
For 20 years, the Missoula Osprey have brought Missoula a fan-friendly experience in one of the most beautiful summer settings in America, and the baseball has been top-notch as well. ESPN Missoula is happy to be the exclusive radio carrier of the Missoula Osprey once again this summer. Tune in to 102.9 FM to hear every single Osprey game as the Birds chase another Pioneer League title. The Missoula Osprey broadcasts are brought to you in part by Widmer Brothers Brewing, Diversified Construction and Materials, Mission Paint, and Selway Armory.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon. Brian Tutel, Colton Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Sports Center. Montana State is closing in on its initial fundraising goal, according to MSU Alumni Foundation President and CEO Chris Murray, notably not the former quarterback. Murray said in an MSU press release that the foundation has secured $16.5 million of their $18 million required to break ground on the planned Bobcat Athletic Complex and Academic Excellence Center. The 40,000-square-foot student-centered facility is the first part of the $38 million athletics facility master plan released in 2017.
At the July meeting of the State Board of Regents in Helena, the university will ask for authority to spend up to $1.5 million to complete the design of the facility. Up to $3 million will be financed by MSU to be repaid by athletic revenues. No taxpayer money will be used to fund the project.
The pendulum in the in-state recruiting game continued to swing Monday. A week after Montana landed 3 of the Treasure State's top football prospects, Montana State got a verbal commitment from Butte Central standout lineman Aaron Richards. The 6'4.5", 280-pounder earned all-state honors on the offensive and defensive lines. Richards is the second verbal commit for the class of 2020 to Montana State, joining Colstrip defensive lineman Trey Yates.
Finally, Glendive senior Carson Murphy has verbally committed to the Lady Grizz for basketball. Murphy was a Class A All-State selection this past basketball season, as well as the State A champion in both high jump and triple jump.
And off we go to the West. It is Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. We are broadcasting live from the Chris Polaris studios. Chris Polaris celebrating their 30th birthday all month, right? July, 30 years of business, and they are celebrating by offering up to 30% off MSRP on select parts and accessories for the purchase of any new Polaris off-road vehicle, Husqvarna and Beta dirt bikes, or any Crest pontoon boat. Some restrictions apply. See Kurtz for details. Get to Kurtz in Missoula and Sealy all month for Kurt's 30-year anniversary sale. If you want to call, 329-1899 is the phone number. All guests join us via the Rangich Brothers RV phone line. All right, Coulter, we did some of these Eastern Conference teams where we think they're going to go. Let's head out west, and the new-look Lakers and the still unknown answer of Kawhi Leonard, the new-look Golden State Warriors, and where we're at with what I think is still the stronger conference.
So, with everything that's happened, let's just go through this. It's so hard without knowing where Kawhi Leonard is going to go, right? Because Kawhi Leonard landing with either of the two LA teams, I think, thrusts either of those teams. I mean, if he lands with the Lakers are the favorites in the Western Conference. Period. If he lands with the Clippers, I don't know. I mean, I guess let's start there. Kawhi Leonard with the Clippers. Who's better, the Warriors or the Clippers?
I think the Warriors. I would say certainly the Warriors if we were assured of Klay Thompson's health and availability at some point.
So Klay Thompson had knee surgery today.
Okay.
So the timetable these days is usually 6 to 8 months before full rehab, and then probably 10 months before full health.
So you're talking about New Year's Day, between New Year's Day and the end of February. Let's say he comes back. Let's call it 7 months. Split the difference. Let's say he comes back at the end of January going in. I like the Warriors, but But it's an open question. I'm going to still tilt towards Golden State. I mean, you still got Steph Curry. You still got Draymond Green. Boogie Cousins is still a free agent, right? So I think we're unclear on what is going on with him, but maybe Golden State's the leader in the clubhouse there. You can tell, you know this about me. I'm higher on DeMarcus Cousins than I think a lot of people are. I don't love him.
Which is so random.
No, I don't love him, but I like him. And I think that, I mean, he's got unbelievable skill, athleticism, shooting for a guy who's 7'1" and a giant. So, I mean, I don't know. So, I guess it's interesting to me. The loss of Iguodala, obviously Kevin Durant, significant. But I would, the Clippers, let's put it like this. The Clippers without Kawhi Leonard are a better than you thought they were going to be 8 seed. Okay? That's what you got there. And here's the thing I think we think that because they played the Golden State Warriors and showed absolutely no fear and took it to the Warriors and won 2 games in that series, you go, wow, look at the grittiness and the guttiness of that team, and you should. That's fine. But you know what they are? Not close to as good as the Golden State Warriors without Kawhi Leonard. Now the Warriors are not as good as they were this year. They're not going to be as good this forthcoming year as they were. They're still really good. The Clippers, they got to have Kawhi Leonard to have a shot at anything.
I think that the Clippers, if they don't get Kawhi Leonard, will be outside the playoffs. If they do get Kawhi Leonard, I think there's a top 3 team in the West. So let's take them out of the equation.
Okay.
I think the Lakers, just as they are, regardless if they're the running joke, they're going to play 4-on-5, whatever. I don't care. Here's the thing that I think that some pundits have right and some have just grossly wrong. I think that Anthony Davis is the most complimentary player to ever play with LeBron James. I just think that they are going to be such a good combo in a very short period of time because LeBron doesn't have much time left. But this is going to be as good as it gets in terms of a running mate for LeBron. So I think the Lakers are a top 5 team in the West, even if they don't get Kawhi Leonard. But let's assume
top 5 I can buy. Yes.
Okay, so let's just say the Lakers as they are right now with the big 3 that is LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Kyle Kuzma. Rank these teams in order: the Lakers, the Nuggets, the Rockets, the Jazz, and the Thunder.
Nuggets 1.
Nuggets number 1.
Distant 1.
You think they're still that far out in front of the Lakers?
That entire group that you just said. Who did you said? The Jazz, the Thunder, the Lakers,
the Jazz, the Thunder, the Lakers, the Rockets, and the Jazz. Okay. No, and the
yeah, that's what you said.
Did I say the Blazers?
No, you didn't.
Blazers.
Okay, so I take back
Nuggets, Blazers, Rockets, Jazz. Those are the 4 teams that finished behind the Warriors this year. And then the Thunder were 6th.
Okay. Nuggets still 1.
Okay.
Blazers 2.
Better than the Lakers.
Better than the Lakers. Lakers 3. Jazz 4. Rockets 5. I think
So the Jazz, the only team that they actually got ahead of was the Rockets.
Yeah. I mean, who did the Jazz get? Couple of nice pieces.
They got Mike Conley. They got Bogdanovich.
Oh, yeah,
they got rid of Derek Favors, which I think will help them just because of the pairing with Rudy Gobert.
And I must say, I hadn't considered Mike Conley. I love Mike Conley, even at 31 years old. And I think he's a great player. I think he's a good fit. I think he's a good mentor and just veteran player to pair with Donovan Mitchell. So I do like the Jazz. Here's my issue with the Jazz. I thought the Jazz were going to take a step forward this year. They took a step back, and that was disappointing to me. And I'm not entirely sure why that was. I think they could take a step forward again, but are they going to be better than the Lakers with LeBron James and Anthony Davis? I don't think so. I don't
think so either.
Are they going to be better than the Blazers? I don't think. I mean, I must say, I think the Blazers have potential to take a step back, but that's because they were in the Western Conference Finals. Like that's outstanding. Even getting swept in that series, that's an unbelievable height to ascend to for the Blazers, and they beat a Nuggets team that I got above them. I mean, they beat the Nuggets in a 7-game series, and I like the Nuggets more than I like the Blazers. But they did do it.
The Blazers made some sneaky additions, too, because, first of all, you're going to get Yusuf Nurkic back, which was a huge hit to them not having him down the stretch. But also, they took some of their new age big guys who I praised a lot during the playoffs, guys like Myers Leonard, guys like Mo Harkless, and they flipped those guys, and they ended up with Hassan Whiteside, who is one of the only true real shot blockers in the league, and Kent Bazemore, who's a decent piece, but I think he fits well with McCollum and Lillard.
And they kept Alex Collins, right?
Jack Collins.
Right, not the football player.
Not the football player.
Come on, Tutel. You're better than this. Kept Zach Collins. And obviously, they maxed out. Damian Lillard is making more money than he's doubled up his own alma mater's entire endowment. And C.J. McCollum, I think it's great. I feel like they still need, and maybe Nurkic is that, but like a true third option that can be dominant in a given game, And whether they have that or not, I don't know. I don't know if they have it defensively, but I think the Blazers are great. I'm excited to watch them play, and I think they're going to be really good. But I think they are a step behind Golden State and a step behind Denver.
You're going to hate this take, and you're going to start screaming.
Good. Get me going. Why not?
I think the Lakers are the second best team in the West.
No chance.
I think the Lakers are better than the Nuggets. I think the Lakers are better than the Blazers. I think the Lakers are significantly better than the Rockets, Jazz, or Thunder.
So you still got the Warriors 1?
I do have the Warriors 1.
I'm surprised at that because I was going to sit here and honk the horn for the Warriors being number 1, but I didn't think that you would think
the Warriors, first of all, what's the NBA all about? More than anything else.
Shooting.
Who's got the best players?
Yes.
Well, who are the best players in the West?
Right.
They play for the Warriors or the Lakers?
Warriors.
LeBron James and Anthony Davis are better than anybody on the Blazers or Nuggets or Jazz. They are.
But But I was trying to talk about the Warriors.
I know, but I'm saying the best players play for the Warriors and the Lakers.
I see.
Those are my top 2 teams in the West.
Yeah, it's fair. I think that it's just so easy not to give Jokic his due. And I'm not saying you're not doing that.
No, I love Jokic. He's just not as good as Anthony Davis, especially not Anthony Davis with LeBron James.
I'm not sure of it.
Do not be surprised if Anthony Davis wins the MVP next year. Because of LeBron.
Okay, don't be surprised if about 10 guys win.
I would be very surprised if Jokic won the MVP next year.
So would I. You know why? Because nobody appreciates what it is that he does.
No, I love Jokic. You don't got to sell me on Jokic.
I'm not saying nobody. But here, what does Anthony Davis bring you? Highlights. Not just highlights, but he's a great player. He's an elite player. Obviously, Anthony Davis. I'm not saying he's not. But because he does it in that, quote, traditional basketball way with length and athleticism and, dominance, physical dominance to go with great, basketball ability, it's easy to look at the brow and go, well, there's your guy. And he is your guy. But this is not about not giving it up to Anthony Davis. This is about giving it up to Jokic, because when you look at him, you go, well, I don't. I'm not picking him first or second or third on the playground. What can he do? And then he goes out there and proves that basketball is a game of skill, and also has the subtle athleticism that people don't really appreciate to go with the obvious size. And it is who's burying threes, Jokic or Anthony Davis? Anthony Davis can hit a 3, but Jokic's stepping out and knocking it down. Clutch 3 balls, bombs away, getting to spots, making passes, seeing the game faster than everybody. His savvy, his instinct, it's just all at a whole nother level. And I am 100% on board. And if you're going to ask me who the best of those 3 players are this year, with LeBron James being 35 or whatever it is, 36, I'm going to tell you I don't know the answer to it. And that's a huge compliment, I think, to Dirk. But he's the only guy, obviously, on that Nuggets team that's even could be in that conversation. Whereas there's a couple guys on the Warriors that could be. And obviously you have James Harden, But that very much feels like the sky is falling in Houston in a lot of ways. So I can't get on Houston. And I think the Jazz have, again, the possibility to come together with a great team construction-wise with some really good talent, which we know that they have, and a budding superstar. But you're right. There's not a single guy on the Jazz that you could even make an argument for being in the conversation with Steph, LeBron, AD, Jokic. You can't do it.
We could probably both agree that the Warriors, the Nuggets, the Blazers, the Jazz, and the Lakers are going to make the playoffs next year.
I think so.
Okay? So that's 3 playoff spots left in the West to be divvied up between the Thunder, the Rockets, the Kings, and the Pelicans, likely.
Did you say the Spurs are likely
and the Spurs. I didn't say the Spurs as likely. So between the Rockets, Thunder, Spurs, Kings, and Pelicans, choose 3 out of those 5. Because everybody wants to say the Pelicans are going to be a playoff team this next year. They got some work to do.
They certainly
do.
The
Kings have gotten a lot better. The Kings won 39 games last year, but they have some work to do as well. And the thing that's so funny is the Spurs have become irrelevant on the national scale and still won 48 games last year.
The Thunder are not making the playoffs with Russell Westbrook and Paul George playing basketball. Okay, they're not. They're going to make the playoffs.
Right, and the Rockets aren't missing the playoffs with James Harden, right?
Probably.
So there's 7. So now you got the Clippers, depending on who they get, and then the Kings, the Pelicans, and the Spurs.
You know who I like? Sacramento Kings.
Interesting. I thought you were going to go Pelicans for sure.
No, I like the Kings.
This will be the year that the Spurs don't make the playoffs, potentially, huh?
Here's the thing. I would say it is not insane to me to imagine the Rockets not making the playoffs because of the way things are going.
If Kawhi Leonard signs with the Clippers, it would make me so happy if the Rockets and or Thunder miss the playoffs next year.
Oh, did you? Yeah, the Clippers. Yeah. Yeah, it's tough going. I mean, here's the thing. As much as I sit here and honk on the Blazers and the Nuggets, we've seen teams all of a sudden it's just like everybody got better and you didn't. You know what I mean? And that's a real possibility. So, I don't know. Got a long way to go. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Coulter, if you want to stay the night in Missoula, maybe you're traveling, maybe you're a business person and need someplace to go, maybe you got a conference room that you have, maybe you got a bunch of kids and you want to feed them a great breakfast and put them on a water slide. Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. It's the spot to go.
Wingate Missoula got you covered. Got all sorts of stuff, whether it's birthday parties you're interested in, planning business meetings. If you got a business conference, if you're traveling through Missoula, you're out there, one of our statewide listeners, check out the Wingate by Wyndham. And they have some of the best business travel rates around as well. You might notice that hotel rates, especially for business corporate members, go up in the summer. Not the case by Wyndham. They are committed to keeping their business rates down. If you're a business traveler who's tired of summer rate increases, Wingate by Wyndham can help you all summer and all year. They offer great year-round rates for corporate travelers with a bonus extra Wyndham Rewards points. They also upgrade regular business guests for no charge whenever possible. Give Kim and Alicia a call, 406-541-8000 today to learn more. Let the Wingate by Wyndham in Missoula make you feel at home even when you're not.
It's the summer. Where are you going to send your kids? I'll tell you next.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River.
Les Schwab is proud to introduce 2 of our best tires ever, just in time for summer. There's our exclusive Reputation, a high-mileage premium passenger tire we believe has the quietest, most comfortable ride ever. Or our exceptionally quiet and smooth all-season traction tire, the Open Range AT. Get up to $150 instant rebate on 4 backcountry MT or AT tires or $50 on 4 road control passenger tires. Les Schwab Tires. Doing the right thing matters. Cannot be combined with other offers. Limited time. Terms and conditions apply. Details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, who pump it
Stop into Town Pump this summer for all your cold beverages. Enjoy your cold one at the lake or on the porch. Pick up Miller and Coors 12-pack cans, 2 for $20. Enjoy summer for longer with Mix and Match 5-hour energy shots, 2 for $5 at your Town Pump.
Right down the road, pump it up, yeah.
Hey everybody, here with my good friend Josh from the Advocates Injury Law Firm. Josh, if I've been in an accident, how much is it going to cost me to hire you?
Well, we take cases on a contingency fee. And what that means for you is that if you're hurt in an accident, we only get paid if you make a recovery. You'll never owe us anything out of pocket.
What about the call for a consultation?
That's not a problem. We don't charge anything for an initial consultation, so you have absolutely nothing to risk by calling us.
If you're injured in a car accident, call the Advocates, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com.
You're a big league fan. You expect big league service. At the Desperado, you get exactly that. With 35 flat screens, ice-cold brews on tap, and Missoula's #1 wings, you're free to sit back and enjoy every pitch. This summer, make the Desperado your baseball home away from home. Cool off after work, relax on the weekends, soak in some great food and drinks, and watch your team make yet another great push for October. And hey, if yours can't do it, there's plenty of other teams and fun to go around at the Desperado Sports Tavern on South Russell across from the Y.
Welcome to today's lottery drawing. And today's winning numbers are not yours, not yours, and another number that's not yours. And the final number is not yours.
When it comes to having money, don't rely on luck. Brew your own coffee at home instead of buying that latte. Brown bag it to work instead of ordering it. Go to feedthepig.org for more free ideas on how to save. Feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
Tutel and Nuanez. Listen to the podcast on the TuneIn Radio app or on iTunes. 1029ESPN.com.
YMCA, Parks and Rec, stuff for the kids. Been doing something they enjoy.
Tutel and Nuanez. Live on the stream at 1029ESPN.com. The stream is available thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. Now from the Kurtz Polaris studio, here is Ryan Tutel and Colter Nuanez.
July is Kurtz Polaris' 30th birthday. That's right, 30 years. Can you believe it? They are celebrating this month by offering 30% off. That's right, 30% off of MSRP on select parts and accessories with the purchase of any new Polaris off-road vehicle, plus fun and beta dirt bike or Crest pontoon boat. Some restrictions apply. See Kurtz for details. Get to Kurtz Polaris in Missoula and Sealy all month for Kurt's 30-year anniversary sale. Coulter, it is time for our Pepsi Youth segment brought to us by Pepsi Cola of Missoula. Missoula is filled with amazing camps all summer. So if your kids already play a sport or they love or they want to try something new, there are tons of options. The YMCA has some fairly traditional sports and also some stuff for the younger ones. But flag football, soccer, volleyball, track and field, all there through the Y. Also fly fishing and junior art. And you can go online to the YMCA and check it out. You know, grades really 1 through 6 is what we're talking about, elementary school kids. Some of them, you know, the junior art is for 2nd and 3rd graders. Some of the stuff, fly fishing, is for 3rd through 5th graders. So you can kind of separate it up. How old are your kids? What are they into? But I think people are surprised to learn just how much there is out there to do. And then through Missoula Parks and Recreation, yeah, rock climbing, trail running, like the true outdoorsy Montana stuff. Some lacrosse, yes, that's right, near and dear to my heart, the lacrosse, skateboarding, mountain biking, and then a bunch of the what they call the Hall of Fame sports camps with tennis, baseball, football, wiffle ball, badminton. Badminton is a lifelong sport, Coulter. That's the one you get in there. Every picnic, summer jam you go to out there, start ripping the birdie around. You know what I mean? So there's a ton of stuff, but specifically through Missoula Parks and Rec and through the YMCA, full-day options, half-day options, all that stuff. Go online and check them out and get your kids outside, playing some sports, playing some games, running around, seeing the mountains, doing the thing, you know? We only have a finite amount of time out there to be able to do this stuff, and it's now.
I'm already stressing out about it. Having anxiety about the summer being over.
Oh, easy now. It's just the 2nd of July.
I know. My summer ends in 12 days.
Yeah, it's true. we go to the Big Sky kickoff.
So on that note, see you later.
Okay, boys and girls, get your kids out there. This segment brought to you by Pepsi Cola Missoula. Pepsi Cola of Missoula proudly supports youth athletics. That's right, Coulter. We are, let's say, 2 weeks from yesterday is the Big Sky kickoff in Spokane, the Big Sky football kickoff in Spokane. All 13 coaches, head coaches of the football teams in the Big Sky Conference, along with one player of
two
their
players
choosing.
now.
Is
They
it
actually
two?
they bring two
that's
now.
right.
Yeah,
Offensive and a defensive guy out there in Spokane. Tom Wistersill. This will be his first one of these. He
New
came
commish.
along in about December, I think. He started in with the Big Sky Conference as the new commissioner. So we'll see what's going on there. But fun to have the opportunities to do the interviews, one-on-one stuff, but also see a bunch of the media members, your friends, around the Western United States, and also just kind of sit there and chat a little bit, chop it up, talk some football. It's July, mid-July, man. That's what I'm talking about. I almost sat down last night, Coulter, and watched Oklahoma, West Virginia. This was a great football game.
You are the only person that wants to watch sporting events 7 months after they happened.
That's false. There's got to be others.
Well, I've never met one.
Well, I mean, this wasn't even like Wyoming, New Mexico, which I was looking at last week. This is like a proper, like a major Big 12 football game, the winner of whom was going to the Big 12 championship game. So this is like a significant deal, but I didn't quite get to it. I fell asleep. Tonight, perhaps.
Maybe. Good luck out there.
Why you make fun of me, man?
Big Sky Conference announced a new TV deal with Pluto TV. There's just going to change the channels. So more on that. Just go check out our Twitter at 1029 ESPN. Okay. Channels are the 500s. Don't know what that means.
Enjoy Osprey baseball tonight. Game 2 of 3. The Osprey hosting the Idaho Falls Chuckers. ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television coming up in under an hour from now. Sean Rainey on the call with that thing tonight. So enjoy it. Reese, great work in the back. Appreciate it. Appreciate all of you. Have a wonderful Tuesday. We'll wrap up the week tomorrow. ESPN Radio.
Alpine Touch has mastered keeping your taste buds happy by spicing up anything you throw on the grill this summer. Now, let Alpine Touch keep your mouth watering whenever you want their new sunflower shooters. Their new jumbo sunflower seeds seasoned with Alpine Touch's world-famous all-purpose seasonings. And Alpine Touch sunflower shooters will be available all summer at every Osprey baseball home game. Available at retail locations around the state and online at alpinetouch.com. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
It happens. You're positive you put your bank card back in your wallet, but the next time you need it, it's missing. Avoid the panic and take control with the MyCard app and debit card from Farmer State Bank. Our app lets you control your debit card and securely turn it off right from your phone. Safe, secure, instant. MyCard is available only at Farmer State Bank. Ask about it at any of our 9 locations or learn more at farmersebank.com. Farmer State Bank, member FDIC.
Hey folks, it's 4th of July week and Selway Armory is celebrating with special deals and sales all week long. Selway Armory at 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6 off North Reserve has the biggest selection, best expertise, and yes, also the lowest prices on firearms and accessories anywhere. So get in this week to Selway Armory. Selway Armory will be closed on Thursday, July 4th to celebrate America's birthday, but will be open every other day with great low prices and amazing deals. Celebrate America's birthday at Selway Armory.
Hey there, Coulter Nuanez from Tutel Nuanez 1029 ESPN Missoula here with Tom from Aspen Sound. Tom got me a great deal on an automatic car starter this winter. Now it's summer. What sort of stuff you guys got going on down there, Tom?
Well, Coulter, coming into the summertime, we're picking up on the window tinting front. So if you need your windows tinted, give us a call. We'll get you scheduled up. Boats and ATVs are starting to come in full swing, and we're also starting to see the hot rods come out to play. Anything audio related, let us know. We'll get you taken care of.
Feel the music at Aspen Sound.
Hey, Ryan Tutel here from Tutel Nuanez. We are on every weekday from 4 to 6 in the afternoon right here on 1029 ESPN Radio, as you might already know. Very convenient for everybody traveling to and fro in the afternoons. We also know not everybody does that, so if you need to listen to us when we're not on the radio, we've got you covered there too, don't we, Coulter?
If you missed the show, you can always find it on every one of your favorite podcasting platforms, from iTunes to Spotify to the TuneIn Radio app, or you can just go to 1029ESPN.com and click on the podcast tab.
The Tutel Nuanez podcast, available when you want it, wherever you are, however you consume your podcast. We're there for you. Sports from around the state of Montana and even around the nation, but relevant to Montana. The Tutel and Nuanez podcast. Get it when you want it, where you want it.
Tutel Nuanez podcast, sponsored in part by the Wingate by Wyndham. Let the Wingate by Wyndham in Missoula make you feel at home, even when you're not.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula.